G'day guys, welcome back to another video on the channel, and with 5 rounds left to go in the season, I'm going to be predicting every single game remaining on Squiggle. So yeah, let's jump straight into it, starting off with this round 20, which the first game on Friday night, the big boss blockbuster against Carlton versus Collingwood. Yeah, obviously this round will be pretty similar to my actual predictions that are actually out on the channel. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. Yeah, obviously being a biased Pies fan, I'm obviously going to go the Pies here. I'll probably go us by 14 points, which I believe is the same margin or somewhat similar to the one I did in my tipping video. Now, down at Kardinia Park, you'd expect Geelong to win this. Freo did win it last season, but you should think Geelong would win this one pretty comfortably by 50 points, in my opinion. Which actually takes them to 5th on the ladder. You'd expect Geelong to make the finals now. Now, this is a pretty big game. You've got 6th versus 8th and the Doggies and the Giants. I think most people will be going with the Dogs, but I'm actually going to go with the Giants here in a bit of an upset. And they move up to 5th, and they're only a win away from the top 4. That is absolutely unbelievable to think about. And now we've got the Q Clash. Got some really interesting matchups actually this round, and yeah, you'd expect Brisbane to get the job done, even though it is a home game for the Suns. I do expect the Suns to challenge, and I hope that they can come out and start well for my big call. But I'll go Brisbane by 24 points, taking them up into 2nd for the time being. Now we've got Essendon versus Sydney as the Saturday night televised game. Should be a pretty interesting one. Yeah, both teams have been interesting. Essendon are pretty good at Marvel. I feel like Essendon should get this game done, but it'll be close, I reckon, for the majority of it. We'll go Essendon by 17. These obviously aren't the same, margins as I did in my tipping video. Yeah, we've got the showdown next. This one should be another beauty. Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Yeah, it could end very similar to the way it did it last year with Jordan Dawson after the siren. I'm not exactly too sure who to tip. I think I went with Port off memory in my tipping video, so I'll just go Port by a goal, taking them up to 2nd. You'd expect them to win that game. And Hawthorn versus St Kilda at Marvel. Now, I'm actually surprised Hawthorn aren't favourites, because at the time I'm filming this, they're actually not favourites. So I feel like most people will be going with the Hawks, but I'm actually going to go with the upset tip the Saints as they move up to 5th, which is pretty hard to believe. Their percentage isn't great, but it's still better than some teams trying to fight into the 8. Now, Richmond are one of those teams with a pretty poor percentage, as you can see there, 99.9. Not great. They definitely need to win this game. I do see Melbourne winning this. I do see it being a high-scoring, close game, though. I think Richmond will definitely challenge the D's. But, yeah, you got to go Melbourne. Got to go safe here by 10 points. And then we got the Harley Reid Cup to finish off the round. Be very, very interesting. North Melbourne versus West Coast. And yeah, if you didn't see my tipping video, I actually predicted North to win this one by a solitary point, and I think they will do it again. Yeah, and then moving on to round 21, moving into the final 4 rounds of the season, that is the ladder after round 20. Obviously, West Coast still last, and as you slowly progress up the ladder, you've got Carlton sitting in 10th, Sydney 12th, Adelaide 13th, which is pretty unbelievable to think about. We've got GWS in 6th, St Kilda sitting comfortably in the 8 at the moment in 5th. But yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. This is obviously a must-win game for both teams, more so Richmond. Richmond lose this and they're out. I do see Richmond actually challenging or maybe even upsetting the Dogs. Might be a bit of a scalp on the Friday night. Then again, it is at Marvel. And when it is at Marvel, the Dogs always seem to play well. Richmond aren't, the greatest at Marvel. They lost to Gold Coast there earlier on in the year. So I'm just going to go the Dogs. Safe prediction by 7 points. I do want to make this as interesting as possible, so don't be surprised if I throw in a few upsets. Now, Essendon versus West Coast. This one will also be, as you'd expect, a pretty big blowout. Now, I don't know if I can make it as big as possible, but I think 72 is as big. So I might do it manually. Probably say West Coast get a score under 40, and you'd think Essendon would get a pretty high score. Let's see. So now they're 7th. Definitely got their percentage up, and they definitely needed that. The Bombers a big win for their percentage. Now, Adelaide Oval, the Crows should be too strong, you'd think, for the Suns. They'll get the job done by 15 points, comfortably pretty much at home. The Suns did beat the Crows earlier in the year down, not down, I think it was up in Darwin. So, I don't think that will happen again, though. Adelaide sitting at 12th, with obviously one of the better percentages possible. Somehow Geelong are outside the 8, but I'm sure that will change soon. Obviously going to tip Collingwood here. I'm not going to tip against the Pies. Probably for the rest of the season. I think I only tipped against us once this season, and that was round 1 against Geelong. I'll go Collingwood by 39 points in that one. And then we've got Geelong versus Port Adelaide. This is a huge game. Going to be game of the round 21, in my opinion. Down at Cardinia Park. It's going to be really, really difficult to tip. Port have been really, really good this year, but Geelong always seem to play their best down at Cardinia Park. It will be very, very close. I'm expecting it to be a big clash. Both teams come out firing. I do see Geelong winning the game. I guess you can kind of say it as an upset. But yeah, they'll be too strong at home. They'll win it by, let's go, 10 points. And that rockets them up to 5th. Port Adelaide is still sitting 2nd. Brisbane haven't played yet, so Brisbane could jump above them with a good, healthy win. Now, at Giants Stadium, you'd expect GWS to win at the showgrounds. I don't see too much of a chance of Sydney making the finals. Now I think they're free offered, so they have to win every single game. So this one will probably eliminate their chances. GWS by 23 points. Now they're up in 5th as well. And they're actually sitting pretty comfortably inside the 8 at the moment, the Giants. So we'll never know. Now, I do see North challenging the D's down at Tassie, but we all got to go the D's there. Say 32 points. Now, St Kilda versus Carlton. This one will be pretty intriguing because obviously you look at the race for the 8 and they're both sitting pretty much neck and neck. Carlton obviously need to win more, being almost a couple wins behind Essendon now in 9th. I do expect them to win this game, Carlton. St Kilda obviously are in absolutely horrendous form at the moment. We'll go Carlton by 11 points, which actually dropped St Kilda outside the 8 for the first time this season. So that's going to be interesting if it happens. And then the final game of round 21 at Perth Stadium, Brisbane versus Freo. You'd expect Brisbane to probably win this one. I do see Freo competing a bit, but Brisbane pulling away late, win it by 33 points, which moves them into 2nd. So that is the ladder after round 21. I'll go a little bit faster now until we get up to the final round of the season. So Collingwood versus Geelong, you'd probably expect us to win, and I'm not going to tip against us. We'll go 12 points at the G. Does make the 8 race a little bit more interesting now with Geelong losing. You'd expect Essendon to win this game. I do see North challenging like they did earlier in the year. Go Essendon by 14 points, which takes them up to 5th, unbelievably. Don't think they deserve that. Now, Sydney at the SCG. There's always something about Gold Coast who beat Sydney at the SCG. Both teams, I think, out of the finals race anyway, so I might actually go Gold Coast in this one in a thriller by 5 points. An entertaining game of footy. Then we got Brisbane versus Adelaide up at the Gabba. Both teams have already played each other this year, and it was actually Adelaide who got the job done in a massive upset, I guess you could say, down at Adelaide Oval. This one's up at the Gabba, though, so you'd expect Brisbane to win this one comfortably by 30 points, which all but eliminates Adelaide's chances of finals now. And then we got Carlton versus Melbourne. This one would be intriguing to see who wins. It would definitely be a big game for both teams. Carlton obviously need to win. Melbourne, trying to cement themselves in the top four. They actually haven't yet. So it's almost just as important for Melbourne. I do see Carlton winning this though in an upset. Not brave enough to tip them against us, but I am brave enough to tip them against the D's. They didn't earlier in the year though. It was a very interesting game last time those two teams met, and yeah, now they're in the 8 actually. Carlton, they've kicked the Bulldogs out of the 8 for the meantime, and yeah, this one will be a pretty obvious win for Freo. You'd expect in the derby, they get a good win in front of their away fans actually, but against their arch rivals. But yeah, their season's already over, Freo, so not much they're playing for there, just for in the derby. Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn down in Tassie. You'd probably expect the Dogs to be winning this if they want to make the 8, but I do see Hawthorn challenging. In fact, I might actually go Hawthorn. I want to make this 8 as interesting as possible. I actually tip Hawthorn down in Tassie by 4 points. They are very good down in Tassie. Now, Richmond versus St Kilda, because it is at Marvel, you never know. St Kilda could actually win this game. Richmond, I think they're already out of the chances for finals. I'll still go Richmond by 10 points, even though it is at Marvel. Yeah, they did meet earlier in the year. Richmond did get the job done, so yeah, why not? I'll go Richmond. Now, Port Adelaide versus GWS. Yeah, it'll be interesting, that's for sure. I still think Port should win, even though GWS beat Adelaide in Adelaide not that long ago. Yeah, I reckon it'll be close. Go Port by 11 points. They're still fighting, obviously, for second on the ladder. Too bad their percentage is really, really poor. Now, Collingwood versus Brisbane at Marvel. I reckon it's going to be one of the most entertaining games of the season. But I'm going to tip the Pies by 3 points. I'm not going to tip against us, which could actually make Port Adelaide jump Brisbane, depending on who they've got. Now, Richmond versus North. You'd expect Richmond to win this, unlike last year when they, that one slip. And all of a sudden, Richmond are up until, guess where, 9th, as you'd expect from Richmond. And Gold Coast versus Carlton. Because it is at Metricon, you can't write the Suns out of it. Obviously, we all know what happened a couple months ago with Carlton absolutely pounding them at the G. I reckon it'll be close, but Carlton win the game by, let's go 5 points. Nice and close. And all of a sudden, Carlton up into 5th. GWS versus Essendon. This one's got huge stakes for the finals. Absolutely humongous. Because it has that Giants stadium, you feel you got to go with the Giants. I've been more impressed by their season at the moment. I was with Essendon's, but you just can't, rule the Giants off with their form at the moment. Adam Kingsley's coaching this club to what could be a fairy tale season. They'll win that game by 18 points and move back to 5th. St Kilda v Geelong at Marvel. You'd expect Geelong to win this one pretty comfortably. They're back up to 6th. Adelaide versus Sydney. Because it's at Adelaide Oval, you go the Crows. You'd think they should be able to get the job done in what would be Buddy Franklin's last game at Adelaide Oval. Tip the Crows by 28 in that one. Western Bulldogs versus West Coast. This is where it could get ugly, and this is what the Bulldogs would want, a good percentage boost. I reckon they'll get it as well in this one. Always have to tip manually for West Coast, just because they are that bad. This season, they've had an absolute shocking season, and I generally think, and don't be shocked by what I'm about to do, I generally think this could happen. Yes, that is a very, very, very big win for the Western Bulldogs. Their percentage is now pretty good, and you'd probably expect them to make the 8 now. Now, Melbourne versus Hawthorn, you'd probably expect Melbourne to win this one. Hawthorn have gotten smashed quite a few times this season by top teams. They've also beaten some top teams. I think Melbourne beat them earlier in the season by 60. I'll go Melbourne by, let's go 59 in this one. Now, Fremantle versus Port Adelaide over at Perth. Yeah, because it has a Perth, I do reckon it'll be close. I actually reckon Freo will challenge Port and actually play for some pride here. Port by 16, though, obviously going to be too strong. And then Brisbane versus St Kilda at the Gabba. This is round 24 now. Okay, so this is the final round. And that is the current ladder. Let's see who makes the 8. Because at the moment, St Kilda, Richmond, Essendon can make the 8 and are sitting outside the 8. And St Kilda will not make the 8 because Brisbane are actually going to pound them by 70 in this one. I actually reckon it'll be massive at the Gabba Friday night. This one will be huge. I don't know if it is Friday night. I don't think the fixtures have been confirmed yet. Carlton versus GWS. This one will be interesting because it's at Marvel. Both teams trying to lock themselves in the 8. Carlton sitting 7th. So if they lose, they could miss finals and probably will miss finals. And GWS, you'd think no, they have actually put themselves in the 8. I do see Carlton winning this one by a point. They lost by a point last year. They'll win by a point, and they'll actually jump the Giants. Now, this is going to be a huge game. I'll definitely try and be in attendance for this one. Essendon versus Collingwood to end off the round. I'm going to go Collingwood. Let's go by... I reckon it'll be really, really close, actually. I reckon we'll win by 2 points. Essendon, oh dear. Or they could make the... because Western Bulldogs pump West Coast, they've got a big enough percentage to make it. And, yeah, Geelong will pound the Dogs at Cardinia, I reckon. Just prove why they're such a good side. And they might actually meet in the first week of the finals. Look at that. And same with Carlton and GWS. That's humongous. And Hawthorn versus Fremantle. I reckon Hawthorn will win this one. Actually, in a bit of an upset, I guess you could say, at the G. It'd be pretty close, though. 13 points. Actually be a pretty entertaining game. Down at Tassie, North Melbourne versus Gold Coast. You got to go the Suns, you feel. I do see North challenging. We'll go Gold Coast by 28 points. And they look like they're going to finish the season 13th. Now, this one could actually be interesting. Sydney versus Melbourne at the SCG. It'll be an interesting game. I reckon it should be televised as maybe like the Sunday afternoon game because it could be entertaining. And you know what? I might actually go with an upset and tip Sydney. I think they definitely do deserve a win. I don't think I've tipped them that much in this video. With 2 games left to go in the season, Port Adelaide should beat Richmond. So Richmond won't be making the 8. I do see Richmond challenging. In fact, I almost see Richmond winning because they always seem to find a way to make the 8, Richmond, and they will do damage, you feel, if they make the 8. I'll go Port by 9, though. And look at that. They're probably going to... Yeah, they will. They're going to come second now. And, final game of the season. Adelaide get a nice little win to finish off an impressive but disappointing season at the same time. They'll win that one by 88 points at Perth. Because it is at Perth. West Coast have been competing there more regularly. We should go 61 points. And they'll actually jump St Kilda. And now we'll move into finals, which it's automatically tipped for us. That's annoying. But yeah, we got Collingwood first. Obviously, you'd expect. You can take a look at the 8. Pause now if you want to see it. All right. Moving to finals. You know what? I think they've actually probably already done it for us. They've just tipped all the home team. Oh, no, they haven't. They've just tipped all that. It's probably actually pretty accurate. I do see Collingwood winning that game against Melbourne. It'll be interesting for the qualifying final. Geelong v Bulldogs, who just met the week before, will now meet in an elimination final. They should win that, Geelong. I do see GWS challenging, but we'll go Carlton. Yeah, Port should win that at home. Moving into the semi-finals, Melbourne versus Geelong. This one will be interesting because it is at the G. You know what? I reckon they've read my mind. Yeah, Geelong probably will win that game, actually. I can see them winning it. And Brisbane will be too strong for Carlton up at the Gabba. Sorry, Carlton fans. At least you've actually won a final. Then Collingwood versus Brisbane. Obviously, because it's at the G, I'll go Collingwood, moving us into the grand final. And I actually see Port possibly choking a prelim, like they always seem to. You know, I'll be nice and tip Port to make the granny because they deserve to. Let's just be real. They deserve to make the grand final more than Geelong. And obviously I tip Collingwood. So I didn't have to do much in finals. But yeah, Collingwood, I reckon we'll win, hopefully, the premiership this year. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and stay